In this video, you are going to write the code for removing a note when someone uses that remove command and they pass in the title of the note they want to remove. Now, we already created some utility functions that help us with fetching and saving notes, so the code should actually be pretty simple. We're going to start this video off with a challenge, then we're going to go ahead and wrap the video up with a few things that I'll walk you through. The first step in the process is going to be to fill out remove note, and this is going to be your challenge. Let's go ahead and remove console.log. You only need to write 3 lines of code to get this done. Now, the first line is going to be to fetch the notes. I'll leave a little comment for each line. Then the job is going to be to filter out the notes. Filter notes, removing the one with title of argument. That means we want to go through all of the notes in the notes array, and if any of them have a title that matches the title we want to remove, we want to get rid of them. And this can be done using filter. All we have to do is switch the equality statement from equals to not equals, and this code will do just that. It's going to go through the notes array. Every time it finds a note that doesn't match the title, it's going to keep it, which is what we want, and if it does find the title, it'll return false. It'll remove it from the array, and then we're going to go ahead and add the third line, which is to save new notes array. Those are the only 3 lines you need to fill out. Don't worry about returning anything from remove note or filling out anything inside of app.js. What I'd like you to do is take a moment to fill out these 3 lines and test things over inside of the terminal. Try to delete one of the notes you have in notes data. If you don't have any, that's fine. Go ahead and create one and then try to delete that one. Take a moment, knock out these 3 lines, test things over in the terminal, and when you're done, go ahead and click play. How'd it go? Hopefully you were able to fill out these 3 lines without too much trouble. The first thing we want to do for the fetch notes line is to create a variable called notes, just like we did in add note, and we're going to set it equal to the return result from fetch notes. At this point, our notes variable stores an array of all of the notes. The next thing we need to do is filter our notes. If there is a note that has this title, we want to remove it. That is going to get done by creating a new variable, and I'm going to call this one filtered notes. You might have called it something else. That is perfectly fine. You might not have created a variable at all. Maybe you did it in 2 lines, and that's fine too. The goal is just to get something that works. Here, we're going to set filtered notes equal to the result that's going to come back from notes.filter, which we already used up above. We know that notes.filter takes a function as its one and only argument, and that function gets called with the individual item in the array. In this case, it would be a note. And we can do this all on one line using the ES6 arrow syntax. If we have one statement, we don't need to open and close curly braces. That means right here, we can return true if note title does not equal to the title that's passed into the function. This is going to populate filtered notes with all of the notes whose titles do not match the one passed in. If the title does match the title passed in, it will not be added to filtered notes because of our filter function. 2 lines down, 1 more to go. The last thing to do is call save notes. Right here, we're going to call save notes, passing in the new notes array, which we have under the filtered notes variable. If we were to pass in notes, it wouldn't work as expected. We're filtering the notes out, but we're not actually saving those notes, so it's not going to get removed from the JSON. We need to pass filtered notes in right here. And these are the 3 lines I wanted you to write. And we can test these by saving the file and trying to remove one of our notes. I'm going to go ahead and try to remove secret2. That means all we need to do is run the command, which we called remove, which is specified over in app.js, and then it's going to call our function. I'm going to run node with app.js, and we're going to pass in the remove command, and the only argument we need to provide for remove is the title. There's no need to provide the body. I'm going to set this equal to secret2. Excellent. If I hit enter, you can see we don't get any output, although we do have the command remove printing. There is no message saying whether or not a note was removed, but we'll add that soon. For now, we can go ahead and check the data. And right here, you can see secret2 is nowhere in sight. And this means our remove method is indeed working as expected. It removed the note whose title matched, and it kept all the notes whose title was not equal to secret2. Exactly what we wanted. Now the next thing we're going to do, which is not part of the challenge, is going to be to print a message depending on whether or not a note was actually removed. That means app.js, which calls remove note, it's going to need to know whether or not a note was removed. And how do we figure that out? How can we possibly return that given the information we have right here? Well, we can, because we have two really important pieces of information. We have the length of the original notes array, and we have the length of the new notes array. If they're equal, then we can assume that no note was removed. If they are not equal, we're going to assume a note was removed. And that is exactly what we're going to do. If the remove note function returns true, that means a note was removed. If it returns false, that means a note was not removed. Right here, we can add return. We're going to check if notes.length does not equal filtered notes.length. If they're not equal, it's going to return true, which is what we want because a note was removed. If they're equal, it's going to return false, which is great. Now, over inside of app.js, we can go ahead and add a few lines down below to make the output for this command a little nicer. The first thing to do is to store that Boolean. I'm going to make a variable called note removed, and we'll set that equal to the return result, which will either be true or false. On the next line, we can go ahead and create our message. And I'm going to do this all on one line using the ternary operator. Var message is going to get set equal to. Now, the ternary operator lets you specify a condition. In this case, we're going to use the condition note removed, which will be true if a note was removed and false if it wasn't. Now, the ternary operator can be a little confusing, but it's really useful inside of JavaScript and Node.js. After the condition, we're going to put a space with a question mark and a space. This is the statement that's going to run if it's true. If the note removed condition passes, what we want to do is set message equal to note was removed. Now, if note removed is false, we can specify that condition right after the colon. This is the format for the ternary operator. Condition, question mark, the truthy expression to run, colon, and then the falsy expression to run. Here, if there is no note removed, we're going to use the text note not found. Excellent. Now with this in place, we can go ahead and test out our message. Last thing to do is print the message to the screen using console.log passing in message. This lets us avoid if statements that make our else if clause for remove unnecessarily complex. Back inside of Atom, we can rerun the last command, and in this case, no note is going to get removed because we already deleted it. And when I run it, you can see that note not found prints to the screen. Now I'm going to go ahead and remove a note that does exist. In notes data.json, I have a note with the title of secret. Let's go ahead and rerun the command, removing the 2 from the title. When I run this command, you can see note was removed prints to the screen, and this is fantastic. We now have the ability to add and remove notes from our application. And since we already made those utility functions, we're able to reuse them here, making the process of filling out remove note that much easier. Back inside of app.js, we also did something depending on how the remove note function executed. If it did remove the note, we print a message. If it didn't, we print a different message. That is it for this one. We now have 2 of our commands in place. In the next one, we're going to take a look at how we can create our read command. Read is going to be responsible for fetching the body of an individual note, as opposed to list, which we'll do later. That is going to fetch all the notes and print them to the screen. That's it for this one. I will see you next time.